The dumpling debacle begins. So, I'm Avery, 28. Bicultural baby of a very dramatic household. My mom is ethnically East Asian, but was adopted into a white American family when she was a baby. My dad is aggressively Midwestern, like casserole for every occasion Midwestern. And my family, bless their hearts, thinks they are very culturally aware. Spoiler alert, they are not. Every year we have a big extended family dinner sometime between Labor Day and Thanksgiving, which my mom insists on calling the Autumn Heritage Banquet, like we're in a PBS special. It started out cute, but it's gotten weird. This year, Mom and Dad decided they wanted to honor both sides of our cultural backgrounds by having a culture swap dinner, where each of us kids, me and my older brother Evan, 29, had to cook a dish from the opposite parent's culture. Kind of like Cultural Freaky Friday, but with food. Evan had to do one of Dad's recipes, meatloaf, which he overcooked until it resembled drywall, and I had to do Mom's alleged secret family dumpling recipe that's been passed down for generations. The problem is, it hasn't. Here's where the plot dumpling thickens. I found out 2 years ago, totally by accident, that Mom was adopted from a different region than the one she always claimed our dumplings came from. Like, not even close. She was born in a coastal city, and the recipe she swears by is from a mountain province 800 miles away. When I brought this up casually back then, she brushed it off like, it's not about accuracy, it's about connection. Fast forward to now, she hands me a yellowed index card with half-legible English instructions and says, "You have to make these exactly right. They're sacred to our family." I'm like, sacred to what family? The adopted one? The imaginary ancestors you cooked up for the sake of appearances? It felt like being handed a script for a play I didn't audition for, so I pushed back. Gently at first. I told her I'd love to make something meaningful, but maybe from her actual birthplace. I even did some research. Found a traditional seafood dish that sounded amazing. But she shut it down. Said I was being disrespectful. I said, and I quote, "I'm not trying to disrespect anything. I'm trying to be real about it. You can't call something sacred if it's a Pinterest myth." That went over about as well as microwaving fish in an office break room. Dad got involved, claiming I was embarrassing my mother and undermining family unity. Evan chimed in with his usual golden boy sanctimony. "Why do you always have to make things about you, Ave? It's just dumplings." No, Evan. It's never just dumplings. I finally told them I'd bring my own dish, but I wouldn't pretend it was some ancient heirloom recipe from a mystical bloodline that never existed. Cue the dramatic gasps. Mom cried. Dad told me I was being cruel. Evan texted me 3 separate times to say, "You better not ruin this." So now I'm sitting here wondering, am I really the bad guy for refusing to participate in what feels like culinary cosplay? Reddit, AITA for calling BS on the family dumpling myth. Top Reddit comments, "You culture clash queen, NTA. Your mom's projecting her identity issues onto you and demanding you play along. You, dumpling daddy 78. This is giving, my heritage is a vibe energy. Tell your mom to open a map. You, sibling shenanigans. Your brother sounds like the type who thinks not rocking the boat is a personality." My replies, "To you, culture clash queen. Yes, thank you." It's like she's cosplaying her own past and wants me to wear the matching costume. To you, dumpling daddy 78, LMAO. I died at, my heritage is a vibe. That's exactly what this is. To you, sibling shenanigans. He 100% is. He literally once said, "Let's not make this a thing about my coming out." Anyway, I'm preparing for dinner this weekend. I'm going rogue and making the seafood dish from Mom's actual birthplace. It's bold, spicy, and doesn't pretend to be something it's not. Just like me. Stay tuned for the fallout. Let the saucepan showdown commence. Dinner day arrives. I show up to my parents' house with a giant pot of spicy coastal stew that smells like the sea got into a bar fight with garlic and chili oil. Mom is immediately on edge, like visibly twitching. "What's that?" she asks, eyeing the pot like it's radioactive. "Your heritage," I say, smiling sweetly. Dad is in the kitchen, taking pictures of Evan's meatloaf like it's a baby giraffe at the zoo. Evan, of course, is already low-key smirking. Probably thinks he's about to win the whole evening because his dish doesn't require a cultural disclaimer. "You didn't make the dumplings?" Mom asks, voice tight. I say, "Nope. I made a regional seafood hot pot from your actual birthplace. You know, the one with an actual connection to you." She doesn't say anything, just gives me this tight little nod and walks away. Evan mutters under his breath, "Seriously, Ave? Couldn't let Mom have one thing?" "She can have whatever she wants, as long as it isn't historical revisionism with scallions," I shoot back. The rest of the family trickles in. Aunt Trish, Uncle Barry, my cousins, and a few randos whose names I never remember, but who apparently show up for anything with a buffet. Everyone comments on how good everything smells. No one questions the stew. Yet. Then we sit down. Dad clinks his glass. "Thank you all for coming to this year's Autumn Heritage Banquet. As you know, this year's theme was Culture Swap, and we are so proud of our kids for embracing their backgrounds and honoring our roots." He gestures toward Evan. "Evan recreated my family's Midwestern meatloaf. And Avery. Here it comes. Avery was supposed to make my wife's family dumplings, but instead brought a soup." Cue awkward silence. "It's not a soup," I say calmly. "It's a seafood hot pot, from the province where Mom was born." Mom looks like she wants to melt into her chair. Evan gives me a death glare. Aunt Trish, bless her gossipy heart, goes, "Wait, I thought you were from that mountain town with the dumplings." And there it is. I say nothing. Just serve myself a bowl. Mom finally breaks and says, "I was born in a different region. The dumplings were something I was told we made, so I embraced it." "Told by who?" I ask. She doesn't answer. Uncle Barry clears his throat and changes the subject to football, but the mood is toast. Evan doesn't touch the stew. My cousins inhale it like it's the last meal before the apocalypse. After dinner, Mom pulls me aside. "Why did you do that? You humiliated me." I say, "I didn't humiliate you. I made something real. I wanted us to connect to who you really are, not who you think you were supposed to be." She starts crying. I feel like a jerk, but also, not really. I didn't lie. I didn't scream. I made food from her actual heritage. Later that night, Evan texted me, "Congrats. You made Mom cry at her own dinner. Hope it was worth it." Reddit. AITA. Top comments on part 2. You, Hot Pot, and Healing. You did more to honor her past than her own delusions. NTA. You, Passive-Aggressive Protein. Evan gives big, let's not talk about politics at dinner energy. You, Emotional Dim Sum. Mom needs therapy, not dumplings. My replies. To you, Hot Pot and Healing. Honestly, that means a lot. It was meant as a gesture, just not the one they expected. To you, Passive-Aggressive Protein. Can we get that printed on a dish towel? Because yes. To you, Emotional Dim Sum. I cackled. And also agreed. Text threads and thermonuclear fallout, so. The morning after the dinner disaster, I woke up to 27 unread messages in the family group chat. That's never a good sign. Highlights included Evan sending a screenshot of a post from my cousin's Instagram story of the stew with the caption, "Best dish of the night," and adding, "Weird flex for someone who couldn't follow the rules." Aunt Trish chiming in with, "Just wish things could be peaceful. Not everything has to be a statement." Dad replying, "This was supposed to be a nice evening." And my favorite, "Mom, I need space right now. Please don't talk about last night." Translation. Everyone pile on Avery while pretending we're being emotionally mature. So I did what any self-respecting adult would do. I left the group chat. That really set things off. Evan called me. I didn't answer, then left me a voicemail that started with, "I don't know what's wrong with you lately," and ended with, "Just apologize to Mom." Oh, okay. Let me apologize for bringing an actually meaningful dish and not participating in performative dumpling cosplay. Got it. I made a quick post on Reddit, tagging the last one. Update coming soon. Because honestly, the comments have been a lifeline. Y'all get me more than my blood relatives do. Later that day, my sister Lydia, the only sibling not present at dinner because she lives out of state, called me. She goes, "So, I saw the stew on Instagram. Looked amazing. Also saw Mom crying in the background of a TikTok. Are you okay?" Bless Lydia. She's the only one who doesn't automatically assume I'm the villain when things get spicy, figuratively or literally. We talked for 2 hours. She agreed that the dumpling thing is weirdly performative and that Mom needs to stop rewriting her own story to feel more authentic. Lydia even said she felt pressure growing up to look more Asian to validate Mom's fantasy. I hadn't even thought about that. Later that night, Lydia dropped a bomb. She told me she's been looking into some of Mom's adoption records and found out that Mom's birth name, biological region, and original documents were totally different from the ones she always talked about. She was adopted at 8 months from the South Coast, Lydia said, and the family that raised her made up the dumpling tradition as a bonding thing. Mom didn't even start making them until high school. So the sacred dumplings are literally suburban improv. I posted a mini update on Reddit with Lydia's info, and people went off. Reddit Reacts, Part 3. You are Family Myths, Unraveled. So your mom is basically LARPing a backstory she was given. That's a lot. You are Group Chat Dropout. You left the group chat, Legend Behavior. You are Dumpling Delusion. This is turning into a Netflix docuseries. I want episode recaps. My replies. To you, our family. Myths Unraveled. It's tragic in a way. I don't hate her for it. I just wish she didn't need me to keep playing along. To you, bot Group Chat Dropout. Sometimes you gotta hit escape like your sanity depends on it. Because it does. To you, to Dumpling Delusion. If it goes to Netflix, I demand to be played by someone who can cry and chop garlic at the same time. Thanksgiving's coming. I've been unofficially uninvited, according to Evan, which is somehow worse than just saying don't come. Thinking about showing up with a new stew and seeing what happens. Thoughts, ghosts of dumplings past. So, I didn't go to Thanksgiving. Technically, I wasn't told not to come, but Evan's unofficially uninvited message felt like a digital restraining order wrapped in cranberry passive aggression. I spent the day with Lydia, who flew in last minute and brought wine, real talk, and 0 emotional landmines. We made dumplings, actual region-appropriate dumplings, from a recipe she found on a heritage cooking blog run by someone from Mom's real birthplace. They were amazing, by the way. Better than the mythical ones Mom clings to like a culturally flavored security blanket. And you know what? We lit a candle for clarity and drank a toast to truth. Mom sent a group text around 4 p.m. Happy Thanksgiving. Wish everyone could be here. Love you all. No direct mention of me. No emoji. The emotional equivalent of a funeral program handed out by a petty ghost. I didn't respond. What I did do was lurk Reddit for a solid 4 hours that night. Not even gonna lie, y'all have become my digital therapy group. The comments, wildly validating. A few called me dramatic, sure, but most, insightful, thoughtful. Some Redditors even DM'd me their own stories about adopted parents, identity confusion, and how food became a battleground for truth versus performance. I had one person message me a 10-paragraph essay about ancestral trauma and the dangers of aesthetic ethnicity. Another told me their mom pretended to be French for 20 years and finally admitted she was just from Cleveland. It's bananas out there. Reading all that didn't just make me feel seen. It made me realize that I'm not the only one raised inside someone else's narrative. That a lot of us inherit stories dressed as culture, Mythologized scraps were expected to parade around like heirlooms, and when we don't, we get labeled difficult, disrespectful, ungrateful. Honestly, I'm tired of being the difficult one when all I'm doing is telling the truth with garlic breath. Evan posted a family pic from Thanksgiving on Facebook. Caption: "Some people think being loud is brave. I think love is quiet." Excuse me while I roll my eyes into the next decade. Lydia sent me a screenshot with the text. Does he think he's the narrator in a Hallmark movie? I haven't heard from Mom directly. She's posted a few vague, healing isn't linear quotes on Instagram, so I assume that's her way of saying she's not over it. Meanwhile, Aunt Trish commented on one of my old posts with, "Hope we can all move past this soon. Families are forever." Yeah, okay. But are they healthy forever? Anyway, I've been thinking about what comes next. The Reddit crowd has been gently suggesting therapy for me and my mom, and they're not wrong. I've started looking for a therapist who specializes in cultural identity and family estrangement. Lydia said she's in if Mom ever agrees to do group therapy, which is about as likely as Evan admitting he's a smug little loyalty lapdog. I'm also trying to figure out how I want to approach Christmas. I love the season, but the idea of pretending everything is fine while sitting across from people who think I'm an ungrateful heritage hater makes my stomach turn. Still, I don't want to go full scorched earth. I don't hate my mom. I don't even blame her, exactly. I think she got handed a fantasy and built a life around it. She wanted her kids to feel connected, and she didn't know how to build that without fiction. But I do blame the fact that she refused to pivot when I offered truth instead of tradition. I'm allowed to want better than mythology. I'm allowed to say, this doesn't work for me, even if it ruins the group aesthetic. I'm allowed to walk away from a table that expects me to eat lies with a smile. So yeah, Reddit's been a mixed bag. Some trolls, a few sanctimonious types who think I'm out here canceling culture. But mostly, a bunch of internet strangers offering more emotional honesty than I've gotten from my bloodline in years. I don't know what Christmas will look like, or if I'll be sitting alone again with Lydia and some culturally accurate dumplings. But at least I'll be choosing truth, not inheritance. And for once, that feels like peace. Deck the halls with dysfunction. So, Christmas. I caved. Not all the way, but enough. Lydia and I agreed to make an appearance at Christmas Eve dinner. Mom had reached out, finally, with a message that started with, "I miss you," and ended with, "I'll understand if you need space," which, if you've been following this saga, is code for, "I'm trying, but also still quietly judging you." Progress, though. Maybe. Evan sent a follow-up text. "Glad you're coming. Let's make it a good one." Which made me want to RSVP no out of spite, but I resisted. We showed up with a dessert, store-bought, because Lydia and I agreed we weren't putting emotional labor into this meal beyond basic presents. Mom greeted us at the door with this weird mix of relief and tension, like she was hosting a UN peace summit. She hugged me, tight, said nothing about dumplings. The table was set beautifully. Candles, matching napkins. One of those centerpieces made of dried oranges and cinnamon sticks that screams, Instagram holiday influencer starter kit. Dinner was fine, boring, predictable. Beef tenderloin, roasted vegetables, store-brand rolls. No culture swap, no traditions. Just very white, very quiet food. Halfway through, Evan raised his glass and said, "To family, no matter what." Lydia and I made eye contact across the table. Her expression read, Don't do it." But I did it, because I'm me. "To honesty," I said, "even when it's uncomfortable." Mom flinched. Evan pursed his lips. Aunt Trish went, "Well, that's something." And then, silence. But you know what? I didn't regret it. Not for a second. It wasn't a takedown. It was a toast to what I've been fighting for this whole time. The right to exist in this family without performing a version of myself that fits someone else's fiction. After dinner, Mom cornered me in the kitchen while Lydia was pretending to help dry dishes. She said, I know I messed up. I was just trying to give you something I didn't have. A story. A root. I said, I get that. But you can't build connection on a lie. It doesn't stick. She nodded. I'm not ready to unpack all of it. But I know you weren't trying to hurt me. It was the closest thing to an apology I've ever gotten from her. I'll take it. We didn't hug it out. There was no montage, but there was a crack in the ice, a moment where we stood next to each other, not as mother and child acting out a tradition, but as two very flawed people trying to get it less wrong this time. After we left, Lydia and I debriefed in the car like two spies escaping enemy territory. She said, You think they'll ever see it your way? I said, I think they might see me now, and that's a start. Reddit hasn't heard from me in a couple weeks, and the DMs are piling up. People want updates, closure, recipes. Seriously, I might start a blog, Dishonor on Your Dumplings. But I needed this space, to see what it felt like to be in that house without exploding. And weirdly, it felt okay. Not perfect, not warm and fuzzy, but survivable. No one brought up the dumplings. No one tried to revive the tradition. And honestly, I think they finally realized it was never about the food. It was about whether I belonged at the table as I am, not as they wanted me to be. And this year I did. Stew, truth, and a soft reset new year, new boundaries. I didn't go to New Year's Day brunch. I said I had plans, which was technically true. I had plans to not be around people who still side-eye me over a seafood hot pot. Instead, I stayed home, made dumplings with Lydia over FaceTime, and we each toasted with soju and sparkling water from different states. It was peaceful. No group texts, no passive-aggressive toasts, no emotional ambushes disguised as family togetherness. Then something weird happened. 2 days into the new year, Mom sent me an email. Not a text, not a call. An email. Subject line. Something new? Attached was a PDF of a recipe. No intro, no explanation. Just a scanned handwritten page from some old notebook. It wasn't the mythical dumpling recipe. It wasn't even from her adoptive parents. It was a seafood and rice porridge from her birth province. No bells and whistles, no fake backstory. Just food. Real food. I stared at it for a solid 10 minutes before I replied. I'd love to make this with you sometime. She replied, Me too. Let's try. That's it. No emotional monologue. No oversharing. But honestly, it hit harder than any apology ever could. Evan, on the other hand, is still being Evan. He posted some vague post about real family sticks together no matter what, under a photo of him and my parents at brunch. Lydia replied with a single popcorn emoji, and I almost snorted water out of my nose. I haven't rejoined the family group chat. I don't need to. Lydia tells me if anything major happens, and otherwise, I live blissfully unbothered by passive-aggressive Bitmoji memes. I've started writing. Like, actually writing. The Reddit posts turned into a doc, which turned into a Google Drive folder, which is now slowly turning into a collection of stories I might actually share one day. I've been thinking of calling it Heritage is a Vibe, but Lydia is pushing for the Dumpling Chronicles. We'll see. Reddit's been quiet since I stopped posting, but every now and then I get messages from people saying the story helped them talk to their parents, or walk away from lies, or cook something real. I never set out to be anyone's cultural truth crusader. I was just tired of pretending, tired of eating stories that gave me indigestion. Mom and I are supposed to cook next weekend, just us, in her kitchen. No performance, no pretend pasts. Just a quiet attempt at something real. And maybe, finally, that's the recipe worth keeping. Thanks for coming on this ride. Maybe someday I'll post pics of the porridge. Maybe I won't. But for once, it won't be about what looks good on the outside. It'll be about what actually nourishes. And that, Reddit, is the whole damn point. If you like these stories and videos, make sure to like, comment, and share, so we can make some money from ad revenue and continue getting better and better with our publications. We strive to donate a portion of everything we make to charities that make a difference. Let us know if there is someone or thing you want to support. Thank you for staying until the end and enjoying the story.